The champagne glass felt cool against my palm as I watched my sister, Jennifer, drain hers in one long, desperate gulp. Her hand trembled slightly as she set it down, and I knew, with the crystalline clarity that comes from years of being gaslit, that she had no idea what was coming. She thought she'd won, thought she'd finally destroyed the perfect older sister who'd always outshone her. But sitting there at the head table of the Riverside Manor ballroom, surrounded by 200 witnesses and the soft glow of Edison bulbs strung across exposed brick, all I felt was the cold satisfaction of karma about to strike. My name is Ashley Brennan, 31 years old, and I'd spent the last decade building a career as a senior architect at one of Phoenix's most prestigious firms. My younger sister Jennifer, 28, had spent that same decade bouncing between MLM schemes and calling them entrepreneurial ventures while racking up debt she'd never admit to our parents. What she lacked in professional success, she made up for in our mother's unconditional devotion. Growing up, I learned early that Jennifer's failures were somehow more valuable than my achievements. I could design an award-winning community center, but Jennifer posting a motivational quote about boss babes on her Instagram would have our mother, Diane, in tears of pride. Our father, Russell, tried to maintain neutrality, but he'd long ago learned that disagreeing with Diane meant weeks of cold silence and passive-aggressive comments at family dinners. Jennifer's resentment crystallized into pure hatred when I got engaged to Jose Antonio Santos, Anthony to everyone who knew him. Anthony was a civil engineer, brilliant and steady, with the kind of quiet confidence that didn't need to announce itself. He came from a prominent Filipino-American family in Scottsdale, the kind whose holiday parties required valet parking and whose philanthropy was mentioned in the Arizona Republic's society pages. But what really sent Jennifer spiraling wasn't Anthony's career or his character, it was his family's wealth. Old money, carefully invested, the kind that bought mountain estates and funded scholarships. The kind of family Jennifer had been desperately trying to marry into through a series of failed relationships with men who saw through her immediately. 6 months before the wedding, Jennifer launched her campaign. It started with small things. She'd accidentally double book herself for wedding planning appointments, forcing me to reschedule with vendors. She'd post vague Instagram stories about family drama and feeling excluded that had our mother calling me in tears, begging me to be more inclusive. When I asked my best friend Jordan to be my maid of honor, Jordan, who'd been there through architecture school, through every career milestone, through the anxiety attacks I'd hidden from everyone, Jennifer threw what could only be described as a tactical tantrum. "She's making me look bad," Jennifer sobbed to our parents over Sunday dinner, her voice cracking with practiced precision. "Everyone will think we're not close. Everyone will think there's something wrong with our family. Is that what you want, Ashley? To humiliate us?" Our mother's face crumpled. "Ashley, sweetheart, surely you can see how this looks. Jennifer is your only sister, your flesh and blood." "Jordan has been my best friend for 12 years, I said, keeping my voice level, even as frustration built in my chest. "Friends come and go," our father interjected, using that tone that meant the discussion was over. "But family is forever. You need to think about what message you're sending." The manipulation was textbook. Make Jennifer's emotional instability my responsibility, turn her jealousy into my failure. I'd been handling this dynamic for 31 years, swallowing my needs, minimizing my achievements, making myself smaller so Jennifer could feel bigger. But this time, something was different. Maybe it was Antoni's family who actually celebrated success instead of resenting it. Maybe it was Jordan's increasingly sharp warnings about letting Jennifer anywhere near this wedding. Maybe it was just exhaustion from 30 decades of being the emotional support sister. I gave in. I made Jennifer a bridesmaid. Not the maid of honor, I held that line, but part of the wedding party. It should have been enough. It wasn't. 2 weeks before the wedding, Jennifer texted me a screenshot of a $2,400 bridesmaid dress from a boutique that required appointments booked months in advance. "This is what I'm wearing," the message read. "It matches the aesthetic. You can Venmo me." The aesthetic was desert modern, terracotta and sage, copper and cream. The dress she'd chosen was midnight blue sequins, something better suited for a nightclub than a garden ceremony. When I suggested alternatives, she called our mother, who called me, crying about how I was trying to make Jennifer look cheap at my fancy wedding. I paid for the dress. I paid for her alterations. I paid for her hair and makeup trial. Every concession felt like feeding coins into a machine that would never pay out. But I did it anyway because the alternative, standing up to my entire family 3 weeks before my wedding, felt impossible. I should have known she was planning something worse. The reception at Riverside Manor was everything I'd envisioned. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the water and desert landscape beyond. Exposed brick walls were softened by draped fabric and those Edison bulbs I'd spent hours selecting. Round tables and cream linens surrounded a dance floor, each centerpiece a low arrangement of succulents, dried grasses, and copper geometric holders. And at the far end of the room, positioned on its own table with dramatic uplighting, stood our wedding cake. 4 tiers of vanilla bean and passion fruit, wrapped in smooth buttercream the color of desert sand, decorated with cascading sugar flowers in terracotta and sage. It had cost $3,200, and it was worth every penny for the way it captured the exact vision I'd been chasing. I sat at the head table between Antoni and Jordan. Across from us sat Simmons, a civil engineer with an easy laugh and unshakable calm. And next to Jordan, separated by exactly 2 chairs as I'd carefully arranged in the seating chart, sat Jennifer. She'd been drinking steadily since cocktail hour, her cheeks flushed, her movements growing looser and more dramatic. The midnight blue dress caught the light as she gestured, telling some story to the groomsmen beside her who looked increasingly uncomfortable. The main course had just been cleared, seared salmon with chimichurri, plated with the precision I'd insisted on, when I saw it. Jennifer's hand moved across the table with practiced casualness, reaching as if to adjust the small succulent favor in front of my place setting. But when her fingers brushed past my champagne flute, I caught the glint of something in her palm, a small vial, no bigger than my thumb, clear liquid. She tipped it, just a fraction. The contents fell into my glass, disappearing instantly into the golden bubbles. My heart stopped. Actually stopped, then restarted with a painful thud that made my hand shake. But years of client presentations, of staying calm when contractors missed deadlines or budgets exploded, kicked in. My face remained neutral, interested in the conversation Antoni was having with his uncle about the latest Suns game. Jennifer pulled her hand back, that small vial now hidden in her palm, and smiled. That venomous, triumphant smile I'd seen 1,000 times growing up. The smile that said she'd won, that she'd finally beaten perfect Ashley at something. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd forgotten about Jordan. My maid of honor sat directly across from me, positioned with a perfect sightline to the head table. Jordan, who'd built a career as a prosecutor, who'd spent years learning to spot lies and recognize criminal behavior, who'd been there watching Jennifer like a hawk all night because she'd warned me, repeatedly, that Jennifer was planning something. Jordan had seen everything. My phone, lying face up beside my plate, buzzed. Once, twice. I glanced down. 2 messages from Jordan sent in rapid succession. "She just drugged your drink. I recorded it. Don't drink. Act normal." The world tilted. The Edison bulb seemed too bright. The conversation around me became white noise. Jennifer had actually done it, had actually tried to drug me at my own wedding. My mind raced through possibilities. What was in that vial? Enough to make me sick? To make me disoriented? To turn me into a stumbling, slurring mess in front of Antoni's family? In front of 200 guests? In front of everyone who mattered? I looked at the champagne flute, then at Jennifer. She was watching me with barely concealed excitement, waiting for me to drink, waiting for her plan to unfold. And something inside me, that part that had been bending and accommodating and shrinking for 31 years, finally snapped. I wasn't going to drink it. But I wasn't going to throw it away either. I wasn't going to quietly dispose of the evidence and pretend this hadn't happened and protect Jennifer from the consequences of her actions like I'd been doing my entire life. No. If Jennifer wanted to dose someone's drink at a wedding, she was going to face exactly what that looked like. In front of everyone. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I see every single comment, and it means the world to me. Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to the story. I caught Jordan's eye across the table and gave the smallest nod. She understood immediately. Her hand moved to her phone, and I knew she was preparing to capture whatever came next. The MC's voice crackled through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'd now like to invite the maid of honor to say a few words." Jordan stood, smoothing her sage-colored dress, but before she could move toward the microphone, Jennifer lurched to her feet. "Wait!" Jennifer's voice was too loud, too sharp. "I should go first. I'm her sister. I should speak first." The room fell silent. This wasn't part of the program. Everyone knew Jordan was the maid of honor, but Jennifer stood there, swaying slightly, her champagne glass raised, demanding attention. Antoni's hand found mine under the table. "What's happening?" he whispered. "Justice," I murmured back. "I think we're about to see justice." Jennifer didn't wait for permission. She grabbed a fresh champagne flute from a passing server and held it high, her voice carrying across the ballroom without any need for a microphone. "To my sister Ashley," she announced, that fake brightness coating every word. "The perfect one, the successful one, the one who always gets everything she wants." Uncomfortable murmurs rippled through the crowd. This wasn't how wedding toasts worked. This wasn't celebration. This was something else entirely. "So let's all drink," Jennifer continued, her eyes locked on mine with undisguised malice, "to Ashley and her perfect new husband and her perfect new life." She raised the glass to her lips. And I raised mine. Every eye in the room was on us now. Antoni had gone very still beside me. Jordan stood frozen halfway to her seat, her phone held at an angle I knew was capturing everything. Jennifer drank deeply, draining half her glass in one long pull, expecting me to do the same. Instead, I held my champagne flute up to the light, studying it like a sommelier examining a rare vintage. "You know what, Jennifer?" I said, my voice carrying in the sudden silence. "I don't think I'm thirsty right now." I set the glass down deliberately on the table, untouched. Jennifer's face went white, then red, then white again. What are you doing?" Her voice cracked. "It's a toast. You're supposed to drink." "Am I?" I tilted my head, letting my confusion show. "That's interesting, because usually when someone proposes a toast at a wedding, they actually want to celebrate. They don't put foreign substances in the bride's champagne first." The ballroom erupted. Gasps, shouts, my mother's shriek of "Ashley! Victoria! Brennan!" Antoni's sharp intake of breath, his mother's horrified "Dios mío!" But I kept my eyes on Jennifer, watching the emotions play across her face. Shock, denial, panic, and finally that cornered animal rage I'd seen so many times before. "I don't know what you're talking about. You're being paranoid. You're trying to ruin—" "Jordan," I said calmly, "would you like to show everyone what you recorded about 5 minutes ago?" Jordan stepped forward, her phone already cued to the video. On the screen, clear as day, was Jennifer's hand, the small vial, the deliberate tip, the liquid falling into my glass, the satisfied smile. The footage played on Jordan's phone, but in the stunned silence, everyone nearby could hear the timestamp, could see the evidence. That's not... Jennifer stammered. "You edited that. You're lying. You've always been jealous that Mom loves me more, and now you're trying to—" "I'm calling the police," Antoni said, his voice cold and precise as surgical steel. He already had his phone out. "This is attempted poisoning. This is a crime." "No!" Jennifer's voice spiraled upward into hysteria. "No, you can't! It wasn't. I was just trying to. She deserved it. She always gets everything. She doesn't deserve you, or this wedding, or any of it." And there it was. The confession, the truth she'd been hiding behind tears and tantrums and our mother's enabling for 28 years. My father stood from his table, his face gray. "Jennifer, stop talking right now." But Jennifer was past stopping. Years of resentment came pouring out in a toxic stream. "She thinks she's so much better than me, with her perfect career and her perfect fiancé and his perfect family. Well, I was going to show everyone what she really is. I was going to make her look like a drunk mess in front of all these people. I was going to ruin her the way she's been ruining my life just by existing." The silence that followed was absolute, and Tony's hand tightened around mine. "Are you okay?" he whispered. "I'm perfect," I said, and meant it. For the first time in my life, I'm absolutely perfect. Two things happened simultaneously. First, Simmons, calm, steady Simmons, walked over to my untouched champagne glass and carefully covered it with a cocktail napkin. "We're preserving this as evidence," he said quietly. "Nobody touch it." Second, Antoni's mother, Maria, stood from the family table, her elegant gold dress catching the light, her expression carved from stone. She walked to where Jennifer stood trembling and spoke in a voice that carried across the ballroom. "You tried to poison my daughter-in-law," Maria said. Each word was precise, controlled, devastating. At her own wedding, before God and 200 witnesses. Whatever happens next, you brought upon yourself. Jennifer's legs gave out. She collapsed into her chair, the midnight blue dress pooling around her like a bruise, and started sobbing. Not the delicate tears she used to manipulate our parents. These were ugly, desperate sobs of someone who just realized they'd destroyed themselves. My mother rushed to her side. "This is all a misunderstanding. Jennifer would never—" "Diane," my father's voice cut through her protests. "Stop. Just stop." For the first time in my life, I heard my father tell my mother no, heard him refuse to enable the cycle. He looked at me across the ballroom, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Shame. "I'm sorry," he mouthed, but it was too late for sorry. The police arrived within 15 minutes. They took statements, collected the champagne glass, watched Jordan's video. Jennifer tried to claim it was just a prank and nothing serious, and Ashley is overreacting like she always does. But the officers weren't interested in her excuses. They arrested her, actually handcuffed her, and walked her out of the Riverside Manor ballroom while 200 guests watched in stunned silence. The midnight blue dress caught on the doorframe as they led her away. My mother tried to follow, still crying, still insisting this was somehow my fault for excluding Jennifer and making her feel bad. My father caught her arm. "Let her go," he said quietly. "Let her face what she's done." After they left, the ballroom remained frozen, guests unsure whether to leave, to stay, to pretend this hadn't happened. The beautiful reception I'd planned so carefully had become a crime scene, the champagne glass now evidence, my sister now a defendant. I stood from the head table, and Tony rose beside me, his hand never leaving mine. Jordan stood on my other side, her phone still recording, still protecting me. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, my voice steady and clear, "I'm sorry you had to witness that. I'm sorry my sister chose this moment to reveal her true character. But I'm not sorry she got caught. I'm not sorry there will be consequences. And I'm absolutely not sorry that I'm still standing here, unharmed, next to the man I love and the friends who actually care about me." I lifted my water glass, clean, clear, untainted. "So here's what we're going to do. We're going to continue the celebration. We're going to eat that beautiful cake. We're going to dance. We're going to laugh. We're going to remember that a wedding is about the beginning of a marriage, not the end of a toxic relationship I should have severed years ago." I paused, looking around at the faces staring back at me. Some shocked, some supportive, some uncertain. Anyone who wants to leave because this got uncomfortable, the door's right there. But anyone who wants to stay and celebrate two people who actually love and respect each other, the bar is open, and I'm about to cut that $3,000 cake. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Antoni's college roommate stood and started clapping. Then Simmons, then Jordan, then Antoni's entire family. Within seconds, the ballroom erupted in applause. The guests who left were exactly the ones I expected. My mother's friends, the family members who had always preferred Jennifer's drama to my stability, the people who thought I should have handled this privately instead of making a scene. Good riddance. The people who stayed, they were ours. Antoni's medical colleagues, my architecture firm partners, Jordan and the friends who'd been warning me about Jennifer for years, Maria and Antoni's father Carlos, who pulled me aside to tell me I'd handled it with remarkable grace. Simmons, who gave a best man speech so funny and touching that I forgot for entire minutes what had just happened. We cut the cake, danced, laughed. I threw my bouquet and Jordan caught it with a fierce grin that said she'd been aiming for it. Antoni and I left around midnight, waving goodbye from the vintage Porsche his father had lent us, driving off into our new life while leaving the wreckage of my old life behind. 3 days later, while Antoni and I were in Sedona on our mini-moon, I got a series of texts from numbers I didn't recognize, my mother having discovered I'd blocked her. The police are charging Jennifer with attempted poisoning. How can you do this to your sister? How can you press charges? She made a mistake. She's young. She's sorry. You need to drop this. You need to tell them you don't want to prosecute. Family is family, Ashley. You're destroying her life over nothing. Over nothing? I showed the text to Antoni. He read them twice, his jaw tightening. Your mother is out of her mind. If you're enjoying this story so far, please take just 1 second to drop a like and leave a comment. It really helps me keep creating these stories for you, and I genuinely appreciate every single one of you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, let's get back to the story. She always has been, I said. I was just too trained to see it. I didn't respond to my mother. Didn't try to explain that the DA was prosecuting regardless of my wishes because attempted poisoning at a public event with 200 witnesses and video evidence wasn't something you could just drop. Didn't tell her that Jennifer had also violated her probation from a previous DUI I hadn't even known about. Instead, I blocked every number she texted from. Blocked my father, too, when he started sending emails about family healing and moving forward. Some bridges need to burn. 6 months later, Jennifer took a plea deal. 3 years probation, mandatory counseling, a restraining order keeping her at least 500 feet from me at all times. My mother claimed this proved I'd won and that I should be satisfied now. But this was never about winning. It was about refusing to lose myself to keep Jennifer comfortable. 1 year after the wedding, Antoni and I hosted Thanksgiving at our new house. Jordan came, of course, Simmons and his new girlfriend, Antoni's entire family, some couples from my firm, people who celebrated success instead of resenting it, who resolved conflicts instead of causing them. Before dinner, Antoni's mother, Maria, pulled me aside in the kitchen. I know this year has been difficult, she said, her hand warm on my arm. Cutting off family is never easy, even when it's necessary. It was the easiest hard thing I've ever done, I admitted. The hardest part is grieving the family I should have had instead of accepting the one I did. Then grieve, Maria said simply, but don't go back. Some people see forgiveness as permission to do it again. That night, standing in my own home, surrounded by people who actually loved me, I felt something I'd been chasing my entire life. Peace. The champagne glass had been evidence in a criminal trial, the wedding photos carefully edited to remove every trace of Jennifer, the midnight blue dress probably donated to a thrift store, bloodstains from handcuffs and all. But that $3,200 cake? We ate every last crumb, celebrated with every person who stayed, built a marriage on honesty instead of obligation. Jennifer had tried to poison me to prove I didn't deserve my happiness. Instead, she'd proven I deserved so much more than I'd ever asked for. And I let her toast, in front of all the witnesses, to the moment that set me free.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, I've got more just like it for you. Check out the other videos popping up on your screen now. YouTube will recommend them based on what you like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new redemption story. See you in the next one.